The Scorpio Full Moon, 1st of May 2026. The ins and outs and what to expect. If you've been feeling like something is brewing under the surface, if you can sense a truth you haven't fully named yet, that's exactly the territory of Scorpio Full Moon. This is one of the most emotionally revealing lunations in astrology. It doesn't just illuminate, it penetrates. And in early May 2026, the Scorpio Full Moon lands at roughly 11 degrees Scorpio on 1st of May 2026, making it a key emotional turning point in the week and honestly, the month. Today I'll walk you through the ins and outs, what it means, what it tends to bring up, what it can expose, and how to work with it in a way that's grounded, not dramatic. Scorpio Full Moon equals revelation, release, renewal. In astrology, a full moon is a peak point, a culmination, a turning point, or a moment of clarity where something becomes more visible, emotionally, relationally, or practically. It also is commonly framed as a moment of release because whatever has been building reaches full illumination. So when the full moon appears in Scorpio, the thing that becomes visible usually isn't surface level. Scorpio energy is associated with what's hidden, unspoken, unresolved, or emotionally charged, especially around trust, intimacy, power dynamic, and shared bonds. Scorpio full moon is a culmination, visibility, and release. Why Scorpio full moons feel so intense? Let's talk Scorpio. Scorpio is a fixed water sign linked with the most emotional depth, secrets, transformation, and the kind of feelings that don't fit neatly into polite conversation. When the moon is full here, emotions can run deep, intuition gets louder, and it becomes harder to avoid what you really feel. A Scorpio full moon often highlights themes like truth surfacing, hidden feelings or facts becoming harder to ignore, trust and intimacy, loyalty, vulnerability, secrecy, and emotional exposure, power and control, where control is used to manage fear or uncertainty, endings and renewal, release that creates space for rebirth, shared resources, money ties, debts, taxation, inheritances, energetic exchanges. One modern interpretation sums it up well. Scorpio full moon bring emotional truth, intensity, and release, especially around intimacy, power, trust, and control. The Taurus-Scorpio axis, security versus truth. Here's the part many people miss. A Scorpio full moon always happens when the sun is in Taurus, Scorpio's opposite sign. That means the full moon is working across the Taurus-Scorpio axis, which is often described as the tension between Taurus, being stability, comfort, what's reliable and sustainable, and Scorpio being depth, honesty, transformation, and letting go. So this lunation can expose where stability is actually false stability, something that looks fine on the surface, but costs too much emotionally to maintain. So what feels stable versus what's actually sustainable? On the 1st of May 2026, the full moon in Scorpio reaches about 11 degrees Scorpio. The lunar tide pulls deep currents up from the roots. What has been buried, hushed, or hidden is invited into the light. This is an unearthing that asks for release and transformation from the inside out. That same day, Mercury meets Chiron, and the voice that rises is a healing voice. Words become medicine. Naming the wound becomes the first step toward repair. Speak what needs naming. Let clarity be the salve that begins to change the story. A few days later, on the 3rd of May, Mercury moves into Taurus, and the mind slows into steadier rhythms. Revelation finds a container. Insight is given form. Decisions become practical and rooted, so the emotional peak can be shaped into something useful and sustainable. Then on the 6th of May, Pluto stations retrograde in Aquarius, and the excavation deepens. What surfaces now is not fleeting. It is material that asks to be integrated, reworked, and sometimes radically transformed. The process lengthens so the work can be thorough. Feel the arc the Scorpio full moon reveals. Mercury Chiron gives voice to what needs healing. Mercury in Taurus grounds the next steps. Pluto retrograde asks you to go deeper. Move gently through this window. Speak honestly, anchor what you learn, and trust that the deeper work will reshape what you thought was fixed. The ins and outs, what you're likely to notice. So what are the real world ins and outs you can expect during a Scorpio full moon window? In is emotional honesty, even if it's inconvenient. Scorpio full moons are described as emotionally intense and truth-revealing, the kind of energy that makes avoidance harder to maintain. In trust, intimacy, and what's unspoken. Expect themes around vulnerability, loyalty, secrecy, reciprocity, and emotional exposure to get louder. This lunation is often linked to intimacy and trust questions. In power dynamics and control patterns. Wherever control has replaced trust, or where a situation hinges on leverage, silence, or emotional bargaining, this full moon can make that dynamic visible. Scorpio full moon themes frequently include power dynamics and control. In shared resources and energetic entanglements. Scorpio is tied to shared resources, debts, taxes, support, inheritances, and who owes what, emotionally or financially. Those threads come into focus. Out, pretending something is fine because it's familiar. This is the big one. The Taurus-Scorpio axis highlights the difference between comfort and truth, and Scorpio full moons often push release, where clinging blocks change. In brings clarity, out sends denial. So how do we work with the Scorpio full moon? Here's some practical and emotional tools. So how do you work with this without spiraling? Tell the deeper truth. Notice where control is replacing trust. Review what feels emotionally expensive and give yourself space to process. Journaling, solitude, honest conversation. And if you like rituals, frameworks, some guides suggest Scorpio full moon practices that center on emotional release and letting go, including cord-cutting symbolism, ritual baths, and journaling prompts like, what truth have I been avoiding and why? Even if you're not a ritual person, you can treat this like a practical audit. What's the truth that keeps repeating? Where is the emotional cost too high? What needs to be renegotiated? Money, boundaries, expectations, time. Then once Mercury enters Taurus, move into one concrete stabilizing action. A plan, a boundary, a decision, a budget adjustment. Something that supports sustainability. A Scorpio full moon doesn't show you what's comfortable. It shows you what's true. It's a reveal and release point, often centered on trust, power, intimacy, and entanglements, and it asks for honesty so transformation can actually happen. And with May 2026 specifically, you've got a strong sequence. Full moon revelation, Mercury Chiron truth-telling, Mercury in Taurus for grounding, and Pluto station retrograde to keep the deeper work moving underneath the surface. Feel it, name it, choose what's sustainable.